Buyer competition is responsible for more bad deals than seller misrepresentation or lousy businesses. You see, the competition forces some acquirers to make fatal concessions when they're negotiating with sellers. And that's why so many people buy the right businesses the wrong ways. Or they have to settle for what the other searchers don't want. So keep in mind, and those of you who attend my events, you hear this every time: lost income opportunity. If you want to make 500,000 bucks, for example, from what you're going to acquire, the company you acquire, that's about 40,000 a month. That's about 10,000 a week. So it's costing big time while you're not getting a deal done. I'm Ted Leverett, broadcasting from partneroncall.com. I'm the original business buyer advocate, and for more than 30 years, I've been training and guiding people worldwide who buy small and mid-sized businesses. I'm not a broker, never have been. I don't sell businesses. I don't represent sellers. You can learn more about me and how the savviest searchers and buyers do their deals. I wrote 2 books, How to Prepare Yourself and Find the Right Business to Buy. You can get it on Amazon. And my other book, How to Buy the Right Business the Right Way, also on Amazon. Okay. Our topic today is how to avoid or beat buyer competition. And I'm going to begin by answering the questions that were emailed to me by some of you. One of the keys to a done deal is to be the first buyer to meet sellers. But the cutting is brutal. Brokers and sellers are cutting out the weakest. They're focusing on the best, and they can afford to because there's so much buyer competition. So that's why it's really a good idea to be perceived as the best from the very first moment. In fact, let's talk about the marketplace. Business brokers, they want you to attend this presentation. Business sellers don't. And neither does the horde of searchers competing with you to buy a business. They simply don't want you to get any advantage over them. Now, are you surprised about the business brokers? Don't be. They sell more businesses sooner with less aggravation when dealing with well-prepared, capable, and motivated buyers. Sellers, of course, well, they prefer capable buyers, but they also like a lot of buyer competition. And so for some sellers, they're willing to put up with the wannabes as long as they try to outbid one another. And that's not good for you. Question number 1, should I avoid brokers because they create buyer competition? No, don't avoid brokers, but properly approach and interact with them. Run from brokers who don't treat you nicely or fairly. Hey, don't forget, they have the inventory. It's sitting right there on the shelf. They have motivation. They want a done deal. And they're guiding sellers. They're helping the sellers make the decisions to move the deal along. Here's something somebody emailed me. It's from a searcher. He's looking for a mid-sized company. I get this kind of email probably every week. It says, I'm fed up with brokers. They'll try to sell anything, Ted. Well, hey, here's my response. Actually, most of what brokers are listing for sale is not going to sell. And it's because there are so many businesses that are worth more to their owners than to buyers. Listen, there are sellers looking for greater fools, and they're ensnaring hopeful brokers and buyers. Instead of blaming brokers, understand this fact of life. Buyers achieve done deals sooner when they access the largest inventory of businesses for sale. And I'm talking about the unadvertised businesses for sale, or the businesses that are not for sale, but they could be if you properly and directly approach the owners. That's where we go, my clients go. You see, the longer you defer your search, particularly now with this pandemic and we're going into winter, the fewer best deals they're going to be, because there are a lot of early bird buyers snapping up the winners. In the next few months, I'm trying to have my clients be assertive, talking to owners directly. We want to get to them before the brokers have a chance to list them, and before, well, some of you people are sending letters, making phone calls, sending email, doing whatever you're doing, trying to find the companies. We want to be there first, because the buyer is first. If you properly handle the communication, you get the deal. Second, being second is first loser. Okay, here are 3 tips on the topic of brokers, and then I'll switch to question 2. Brokers are not on your team. They facilitate deals, but their loyalty is first to sellers. That's why they get listings. Number 2 tip, assemble your advisory team before talking to brokers. And if you don't believe me, if you don't think that's a good idea, go to my website and write it down. 62 reasons for sellers hiring brokers. You're up against those 62 competitive advantages. That's why you need an advisory team, and you need it before brokers start doing their magic on you. And I know some of you say, I know all about brokers, it won't happen. Well, keep listening. Another tip is, if you're going to include brokers in your search, which I think you should do, at least start with them, but you don't know how to do it, and you'll know it because they're not treating you the way you want to be treated, well, contact me. I'll show you how to do it. I mean, if you read one of my books, you'll get quite a few ideas. Okay, question number 2. How can I improve my credibility with brokers and sellers given my limited cash? I don't teach how to buy businesses with no money down. I think that's fool's gold, but sometimes you don't have enough cash. That doesn't mean zero cash, but not enough cash to do the deal you need to do. So here's how we handle it. You're going to have money for down payment. If you can't show that to a broker and a seller, why would they talk to you? Well, if they have junk, they might, if it's a lousy business. You're going to need money for an advisory team. If you don't have an advisory team, I mean, owners have to be thinking, well, if this person doesn't have enough sense to get help on how to buy a business, how's he going to, or she going to have a team to run the business, particularly if you're coming into a field you've not already been in. The advisory teams are vital. And sometimes you got to show cash for working capital. I tell my clients, well, you might have to show it, but we're probably not going to have to use it. But it's a screening device of brokers and sellers. But what happens if you don't have enough cash? Well, then you need to show the value of your assets that you can liquidate, or your borrowing capability. And saying, well, I can get to that later, won't work. You know, they say money talks, bullshit walks. Saying maybe when it comes to money is not how you talk to brokers and sellers. There are so many people out there with money right now because the stock market, real estate's so high, you got to be able to show it. If you can't, then change your acquisition criteria to asset-heavy businesses. You know, the kind where there might be opportunity to transform the value of the assets into cash. Hey, email me if you want an example of a done deal. It's one of the best ones I ever did with a client. It led for this guy to do more done deals using little upfront cash. And I do mean little, but it had to do with how we controlled the business. And I'll send you that case study. Free. Just email me. Be sure you ask for that, or I won't know why you're calling me. Okay. Or you can, if you don't want to change your acquisition criteria for asset-heavy businesses, well, then look at troubled businesses. That's where the owner's motivation to sell is higher than your capability to buy. In other words, they need to sell, you don't have to buy, so you get some major negotiating advantages. Or you could accept reality if you don't have the cash. Means you're not ready. Why not just pause and come back later? Okay, now for those of you who are intent on either augmenting your finances or you're short on cash, sorry for the pitch, but I wrote another book, How to Get All the Money You Want for Your Business Without Stealing It. It's at my website. You can download it. 500 proven ways to get cash for the business you own or want to buy. My clients, within the first 30 to 60 days, deploy a whole lot of the techniques to immediately dump cash to the bottom line. There are about 100 techniques that we use to immediately get cash to the bottom line. And guess what? We don't have to ask permission from anybody. We don't have to apply. We manipulate the finances. You can go to my website, partneroncall.com, download it. How do you know if you're competing with other buyers? Well, brokers and sellers tell you. Well, maybe. Or you'll notice a sudden shift. Brokers and sellers are less accommodating. They're more self-confident. Perhaps they're going from being reasonable to unreasonable. Those are tip-offs to competition. Number 4, what penalties can I suffer because of buyer competition? Well, you may not buy a business, or you may not get any value from the company you buy. A recent report showed 1/3 of searchers did not buy a business, and 1/4 of the buyers made bad investments. Warren Buffett says, price is what you pay, value is what you get. And this reminds me of a survey I did about 10 years ago. It was a large population of people who recently purchased a small or a mid-sized business. More than half of them said they regretted their purchase. They either bought the wrong business or they bought the right business the wrong way. And quite a few said they wish they could unwrap and return what they purchased. This is why I hope some of you will contact me. I can help you avoid that. That happens because of the buyer competition. Number 5, when am I most likely to encounter or discover buyer competition? Well, there are various phases you're going to go through. It begins when you're screening the brokers and sellers. Remember, they're screening you. There are always, if you're talking to brokers, buyer competition, always, 100% of the time. But if you do well in screening, and we'll talk about this in a few seconds, you can get around that. But guess what? During pre-LOI due diligence, that's when owners who you're talking to who are not for sale with a broker, they begin to wonder, hey, this guy or this woman is interested in my business, and he's asking or she's asking me some questions saying that I might get a letter of intent or a heads of terms, sort of a proposal. Maybe I ought to be talking to other people who might be interested. So the competition does raise its ugly head. You may not know it during pre-LOI due diligence. That's why we camp out so hard on the LOI. And then, of course, once you do that LOI, you get into formal due diligence. Well, guess what? That's when brokers in particular really heat up the buyer competition, because this is getting close to their last chance to get bids, a bidding war going. So all through deal making is when it occurs. Let's focus now on the kinds of interactions that either make you the first choice of brokers and sellers, or that just shuts the door on you. And guess what? If the door gets shut, very hard to go back. Nobody nowadays wants to deal with people who say, okay, I know I wasn't prepared when you talked to me the last time, but I've done my homework, blah, blah, blah. This comes out of the marketing plan I do for clients or help clients do. I'm not pitching that to you right now. You'll know at the end of this if it's something you want to talk about. This is where we put a whole lot of time in. We work on question and answer scripts, and we role play them until you could get an Academy Award, because you do not have any room for a mistake during those initial verbal conversations. You can have a beautiful pitch deck. You could have wonderful acquisition criteria. You could have great search letters. Your resume could be wonderful. Your online print, all that stuff. If you don't verbalize in that first 30 to 60 seconds to really snap the attention of a broker or seller to you, they'll talk to you, maybe, but you can count on it. They will talk to others because you've shown your interest in the business. And remember, even if it's a business that's not for sale, but could be, the minute you talk to them, they realize, whoa, if this person's interested, maybe others are. On pitch decks, What goes wrong? Well, first of all, most of the searchers I see are using pitch decks and they look like, well, let's just say that unless you're buying a company priced over 20 million bucks, if you pitch a pitch deck at an owner of a lower middle market business, a lot of them will be quietly laughing. You can save that stuff maybe for a first-to-first face-to-face meeting where you bring that out as sort of a discussion piece, but publishing, not smart. And I could talk to you more some other time about why. Your acquisition criteria. Well, what we find is what people say when they're first talking to brokers and owners and what they say in their pitch deck, it damn well better be exactly what you say your acquisition criteria is, because what we're all looking for are cracks in your presentation. So if what you're saying isn't consistent or doesn't make sense or too narrow, people are not going to take you seriously. That doesn't mean they won't talk to you, because they might try to get you to bid against somebody else later. And by the way, I know some of you, because I know what you're doing, have your acquisition criteria that says, I'm agnostic, I'll buy anything that walks, talks. Not a good idea. Just not a good idea. Okay, now the other thing, oh, and by the way, this is where the buyer competition comes in. Right there, you're shut out if the owner or broker says, hey, you know what? I don't particularly match that acquisition criteria. And I also don't want to cope with this guy or this woman who says, I'm agnostic. I'll look at anything that's available, because then they know that you're a window shopper and it's not worth their time. The other place where the buyer competition comes in is your timing. You got to keep the ball rolling. And my clients, they know I push them. I don't push them to do a dumb deal, but I do push them to keep the broker and seller producing information. We have to keep them so busy with us, they don't have time to deal with other buyers. If you don't do that, you're opening the door to buyer competition. Same with these search letters, emails, all that stuff that you read about on particularly social networking. Most of what I see is junk. This is why these people don't buy businesses. They're perpetual searchers. So when you're writing your search letters or your scripts and you're emailing, however you're doing it, keep in mind, every single word's got to be consistent with everything else you're doing. One sentence off, we smell something wrong. I know you're inadvertently maybe doing something where you don't mean to. Your resume, yep, you better have one. What I'm seeing are people who make up stuff. They position themselves in the marketplace like there's some big time private equity firm and they've already done 4 or 5 or maybe 50 deals. But you see, everybody Googles. I Google every one of you, and I hope you Googled me. I know about you. I know who you really are, and so do brokers, and so will owners. And if you don't think the owners will, their lawyer will. So when you're doing your pitch deck, your resumes, your online presence, if you're a first-time buyer and they discover that you're pitching way more success or capability than you have, guess what? It's a red flag. So why would they talk to you? Well, they'll talk to you because they go to school on you. That's why. It's a good way to practice with searchers that they're going to dump. Online presence, remember, we're Googling you. That means we find everything. We find out what you did in high school. We see what you're doing on Facebook. So try to wire that in. One of the things I try to do with my clients is we try to wire the Google search so that it's more likely we can get stuff seen that we want seen over, that they took a vacation. Letter of interest. People always are asking me, what do we do once the broker or seller says, hey, I want an offer or a letter of intent? Well, you don't have to actually make it a letter, something in writing, but there are ways to express your serious interest. And that's what I want you to do. But remember, when you do that, it has to be consistent with everything else you've already said, with your pitch deck, your criteria, your methodology, and all that other stuff. Letters of interest are a good test, because if there's competition, brokers in particular might say, well, all right, we see that you're serious and you've now outlined it for us. We want to see a letter of intent. Or if you're in Canada or New Zealand and the other places that use them, they call it heads of term. The broker is going to say to you, okay, fine, you're interested, get us a letter of intent or a heads of terms. What you write in that better be consistent, because all of a sudden, if you change what you've been pitching to that owner or the broker, it opens the door to competition. They don't have to put up with it. I know we all think we're so special because we have money. I used to say, we play by the golden rule. We have the gold and we make the rules. Well, that was before there got to be so much buyer competition. NDAs, those of you following me on social media, you've seen my comments about that. We have brokers and owners out there causing searchers to sign absolutely ridiculous NDAs. And when you fight against it, guess what? It opens the door to buyer competition. Same with your letter of intent. They want you to cook it so it totally favors them. If you don't, they invite buyer competition. I saw a deal go bad about a month ago from a searcher who spent 6 months in bed with an owner. The families were going out for dinners together. They love one another, buyer and seller, owner. It wasn't for sale. There was no broker. But my guy said, I'd like to buy your business. And the owner said, great. The little mistake we made is we didn't get that letter of intent with this exclusivity period in it out early enough. And the deal was taken away in the 11th hour by buyer competition. You know, one of the biggest mistakes, I just need to say it again. I'm making a note to myself. My note says, Ted, say this again. Are the searchers who have not aligned their messaging into all the various places they can be seen or discovered during their search. Your messaging's got to be congruent. It's got to be congruent on social media, networking, websites, search letters, scripts, emails, even how you answer questions. I tell you, my clients, we practice that stuff till we're pretty much sick of practicing. Okay, number 6, another question. What should I do when sellers or brokers tell me other buyers are interested in the company I'm evaluating? Ask, why are you telling me this? What do you want me to do? Why? What are they offering better than me? Am I so out of the running that I should move on? Folks, showcase what you bring to the table. You see, the way the brokers and sellers are responding to your questions, it may reveal what's actually happening. You know, reality or bluffing. Number 7, how can I know when to hold them or fold them when facing buyer competition? Well, you can walk away, maybe temporarily, when the brokers or sellers expect you to negotiate against yourself. If somebody wants you to do a dumb deal, that's when you walk away. There's just no percentage in playing with people who want you to do something dumb. Okay, question 8. What if sellers or brokers say, I must beat a competing buyer's price or other terms of purchase? Well, they're going to do that. One more time, play only to your self-interest. You can bid, but bid only while it's benefiting you. Look, if you know how to search, you're going to have plenty of opportunities, plenty. So don't settle for what's available. Okay, we're going to go to question number 9. What's the most effective way to beat or avoid buyer competition? Well, don't shop where they're shopping. You know, places like bizbuysell.com, you know, those online for sale venues. Go to the hidden market. These are the businesses that are not advertised. They're for sale by owner, or maybe they're not for sale, and you can cause them to be. That's what I do with my clients. We love the businesses, have never thought about being for sale. What you have to do, though, to beat that competition is you got to present more value than they do, and you have to do it up front. You have to do it continuously. Here's what I see go wrong for searchers all the time, and I see it in their pitch decks and all the rest of the stuff. Communicate what's in it for them more than what's in it for me. In other words, tell brokers and sellers what you can do to benefit them. How explicitly do they gain by talking to you, by dealing with you? Don't leave that as a nebulous concept. Offer alternatives. Don't give them yes and no decisions. Things like various deal structures. Don't say take it or leave it. I know they do that to you. I know brokers and sellers do that to you. Don't do it. Give people choices. So it's no to that, but yes to this. Because the minute they say no, or I need to think about it, guess what? Buyer competition is on scene. One other thing, if you want to beat or avoid buyer competition, do not mislead, offend, or frustrate brokers and sellers. Prepare yourself as well as you can. Your first interactions absolutely positively must be as good as they can be with brokers and sellers. There's no second chance. Of course, that's what I do for a living, help people do that. Okay, we already talked about it, going direct. I mean, that's really a big tip, going direct to owners, the kinds of businesses you're targeting. Of course, to do that, they can't see anything in your communications that says I'm agnostic, because right there they go. This person's going to waste my time while looking at hair salons, bed and breakfasts, IT companies, and you name it. Don't forget, folks, your lost opportunity income while you're looking, it's costing you what, 5, 10,000, 20,000 a week? That's what you would have earned if you'd have done a deal. Now, question number 10. This is a big one. I hope you're still listening. Other than competing with me to buy a business, what other ways can buyer competition hurt me? Well, one of the ways you can be blindsided is during your transition into the company. Remember, competing searchers have marketplace intelligence like you do. They can use it to further compete with you, especially if they buy a company similar to yours, maybe one you looked at too, but passed on. Or maybe they'll try to poach your customers or your employees, or maybe they'll interfere with the supplier. This is why it's essential for buyers to know what to do immediately after closing. One of the most important things I do with my buyer clients when they hire me up front is we immediately camp out on this idea of what are we going to do if we actually buy a business? You got to have that all planned out, and you got to have your advisory team working in ways to set up things like warranties, representations, and others so that you go smoothly into your transition. Otherwise, there's a problem with the owner, and you just open more opportunity for buyer competition that you won against when you bought the company, but now they may come after you. Okay, number 11, how can you, this was a good one, somebody asked me this one, how can you turn buyer competition against itself? How about this? Call their bluff. Walk away from the deal. Maybe partner with them. I've seen lots of deals happen when two searchers fighting against one another decide to work together and they buy the company. The key is you've got to demonstrate your superiority. You want your competition afraid of you. They don't have to exactly be afraid, but they need to know that it's just not worth fighting against you, bidding against you. And the good news for you is most searchers and buyers, they don't know enough about deal making. They just don't. There's a record number of people searching right now. They don't know what they're doing. And most of them will fade very quickly because they just can't handle the heat, the competition. All right, look, that's the questions. If you're not getting my newsletter, you might want to sign up for it because I'm going to pick up on this conversation in my next e-news. I'm going to cover stuff I'm not doing it now. Okay, buying a business is all about search because if you can't find it, you can't buy it. It's about being best and first on scene with sellers and being the seller's first choice and top of mind for brokers and sellers. And most importantly, avoiding buyer competition. Well, what about having to compete with other buyers? Well, you have to outbid them, which is a good way to pay more than a business is worth. You can do better if you contact me and we build or improve your searcher marketing plan. You can learn more about searching by reading my book, How to Prepare Yourself and Find the Right Business to Buy. And my other book helps you achieve worthwhile deals, How to Buy the Right Business the Right Way. You will save time, you will save money, you will achieve better deals if you do what the savviest buyers do. I'm available to help you deploy the tactics and strategies from my books. You can get them on Amazon. So, I'm Ted Leverett, the original business buyer advocate with Partner On Call Network. Thanks for listening.
Hey you! That's right, you! Have you been looking to buy an exciting and profitable business? Are you tired of searching, but only finding barriers that impede you from owning a wonderful business? Well, have we got some good news for you. You can find and buy the right business the right way. And you don't have to go it alone. For over 30 years, author and transaction advisor Ted Leverett, the original business buyer advocate, has been helping buyers worldwide achieve win-win done deals. Ted Leverett says, you can't buy it if you can't find it. You see, buying a business is all about search. Because if you can't find it, you can't buy it. It's about being best and first. First on the scene with sellers and being the seller's first choice and top of mind for brokers and sellers. And most importantly, avoiding buyer competition. What about having to compete with other buyers? Well, you have to outbid them, which is a good way to pay more than a business is worth. Searchers do better with a winning business buyer marketing plan. And that's where Ted Leverett comes in. He'll help you prepare a winning plan. And then he'll guide your actions so you can find and then buy the right business the right way. But searching is not enough. The reality is too many people buy the wrong business. Or they buy the right business, but on the wrong terms. That's why, if you want to buy the right business the right way, it makes sense to have Ted Leverett, the original business buyer advocate, on your advisory team. And one of the best ways to know what the savviest searchers and buyers do is to read Ted Leverett's books, How to Prepare Yourself and Find the Right Business to Buy, and How to Buy the Right Business the Right Way. You can get them at his website, partneroncall.com. Don't chance it. Right now, go to partneroncall.com, get the books, and schedule a free and private telephone conversation with Ted Leverett.